Each new year, people resolve to make improvements in their lives. Whether it's losing weight or eating better, the new year gives many adults a fresh perspective on life. But have children experienced enough life to create resolutions? Often, wellness for our kids can be a challenging concept. So, what can parents do to break through and teach their children that taking care of themselves and practicing regular wellness behavior is beneficial? First, parents can develop a relationship with healthcare providers at Adena from birth through adolescence. This will help your children develop a lifelong trust and appreciation for health and wellness screenings. Second, your Adena pediatrician and primary care providers are trained to provide holistic health guidance. They check your children's diet, exercise, mood, development, and social interactivity to assess a healthy balance. And third, take time to do things together. Whether making a healthy family dinner, playing a board game, or tossing a ball in the yard, your habits influence your kids. Starting at an early age, this will help develop a balanced lifestyle. Time for a well check or have a concern? Call Adena Pediatrics 740-779-4300 for an appointment. It's never too early to start wellness for a lifetime.
Hello, everybody. Welcome, and thank you for joining us for this episode of Living Well with Adena. My name is Kirk Tucker. I'm an internal medicine physician and chief clinical officer here at Adena Health. We are here today to discuss a few things, but most importantly, annual wellness checks for children. These are needed to gauge and maintain good health, especially during a time of a pandemic where there's a lot of sickness. Well checks are important because they enable prevention. Prevention is the key to staying healthy. Well checks also serve as checkpoints for growth, weight, diet, dental health, screenings, physical and emotional health. They help pediatricians monitor kids' progress and intervene if adjustments should be made or necessary. Getting well checks also teaches children that annual doctor visits are part of maintaining good health. Before talking more about pediatric wellness today, let's first check in with my friend Fred Yingling, the director of our pharmacy program, about the vaccine services and give us an update on vaccine status here at Adena. Fred. having some issues with muting on Fred's end, so I apologize. We'll go ahead and proceed. The vaccine program here at Adena is progressing quite nicely. Again, it's held for the community at PACCAR. We have been progressing through the state-directed levels of vaccine-eligible individuals, and we're now down to vaccinating folks that are 65 and over. We have already worked our way through our healthcare provider workforce. And again, we are following the state guidelines as posted on the Ohio Department of Health's website to the T. To date, and as of this week, we are now vaccinating with all 3 available FDA authorized vaccines, including the Moderna product, the Pfizer product, and now this week, 300 Johnson & Johnson. Again, the change on the Johnson & Johnson is that is a single dose vaccine, getting you very good efficacy and protection against severe disease, such as being hospitalized or risk of death. So a very effective vaccine. I would encourage you all to visit our website and call the number or fill out an application to receive the vaccine right on that website. It will place you on a waiting list. And we are now moving through vaccines very, very quickly. As a matter of fact, we'll be to a point where we will be reaching out to the community to try to get folks to come in to be vaccinated, probably in the next several weeks. We are currently vaccinating at a pace of about 1,000 to 1,500 vaccines per week. And the state has assured us that our vaccine supply will be going up and up each week as we progress. When we get vaccines by Friday afternoon, they are all used up. We do not save them. They are used up as quickly as we can get them. Adena has also thrown our hat into the ring for the state of Ohio to become potentially one of 16 mass vaccination sites for the state, which will be tremendous for the Southern Ohio region. So I'm very excited. Joining us today to talk about pediatric wellness is somebody you might all be familiar with. This is Dr. Kristen White. She's a pediatrician at Adena Pediatrics. If you are tuning in live with us today, you can submit questions for Dr. White to answer in the comment section. So I would encourage you to do so. Dr. White, welcome back. I understand you've been here before with one of my colleagues as the host, so that's great. We appreciate your time very much. Can you tell the audience today a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, so this is my second time on here, and I enjoyed doing it and talking to you guys and answering questions and kind of getting the word out there for everybody about pediatric wellness. And so I'm originally from Southern Ohio. I went to Greenfield, and my husband's from Chillicothe, so we are back home now after going through medical school and residency. So my husband teaches at Greenfield now, and we've got now 3 kids. And so we're excited to be back. And so we know from pediatrics from home and pediatrics from work. So yeah.
I love it. So you are a busy couple, it sounds like. 3 children, no doubt. So perfect for a pediatrician. So Dr. White, being a pediatrician and a mom and a parent, how important are annual well checks for children?
Yeah. So, lots of annual well checks at all different ages. So when they're babies, they're coming in frequently. We see them all the time. Then as they get older, that's more just like once a year. So we kind of have kids in all different stages. And so especially as we talk about, kids getting older and annual well visits, I think parents start to, it gets to be like, you forget, that that's part of healthcare. And,
Certainly.
And so once they have their birthday, trying to remember to get them into the doctor just for those well checks. And so they're super important because like you mentioned a little bit ago, we look at not just, immunizations and things, but we're looking at their height, their weight, are they following their growth curve? We look at their blood pressure. We look for mental health, well-being, as well as, how's school going? Are they in school, depending on what age? And so we're kind of looking at the whole person, not just numbers and the physical outside. We're making sure that they're healthy from every aspect.
Certainly. I know that being an adult medicine specialist, that those visits when people come can be very episodic. They come because their knee hurts or they're following up on their diabetes with me. And if we don't take the time to block in there sometimes these wellness visits. Very important things can get overlooked.
Yeah.
There's different screenings for adults and kids, but it's a great time for you and your doctor to hit pause and say, we're not talking about anything else, but the things to prevent you from getting sick. So vaccines and screening, and then assert the list you mentioned for children. So what kinds of health questions and concerns can be addressed at annual wellness checks? What kinds of things would parents expect?
I think, like I said, it's kind of different for all ages. We hit on different things for kids that are younger, different things for teenagers. And so younger kids, I ask a lot about nutrition. I think over the course of the last year, especially in kids, we're seeing a big weight increase because kids aren't as active and kids are at home more, maybe snacking more and stuff. And so we're talking a lot about that, and kind of going off of that, as they're not as involved in things, how do we get them back involved and safely because of the pandemic? And so I feel like, especially in the kind of 9 to 11 year range, we're seeing a lot of that, and also talking about how the pandemic has affected them mentally too. Where that age range, I think, is affected most because they kind of understand what's going on, but not quite enough to be able to process it. And so mental health from that standpoint has been a big push about talking to them and being open with them about the pandemic and how it, if they're scared or not, and those kind of things. So, like I said, nutrition, we're talking about mental health. And then in teenagers, you're talking more about, what are your plans for the future? How do you make those decisions? How do you manage being on the adult side, and also, still living with parents, and how are things going with that dynamic? And school wise, if kids are not doing well in school, we kind of dive into why are they not doing well at school? Is it something as from a social standpoint, or is it something from learning disability standpoint? Is it something from concern for ADHD? We kind of hit on all those different questions and try to kind of tease out what's going on, and then also presenting them with what kind of resources we have to help them. We partnered with Nationwide Children, so we have lots of different clinics that come in and use our space so that parents aren't having to travel far, and looking at how can we help them with different resources, and too in the community with mental health resources, with tutoring resources, all different ways that we can help connect kids with the best things that can lead them into a better life.
So a true full service opportunity. And as many people are aware, not just for human problems, but catching things early, sometimes things are much easier to address and fix than if they're left undetected and then advance and progress into a more state. Now, so more than ever, the mental well-being of children, the anxiety, the depression, the social isolation, there are things that can be quite subtle. And a wellness visit is a great opportunity to be addressing those types of things. Everything, including all of the things that give us parents headaches, how much time the kids are spending on screens and video games. I had a several-hour conversation last night. This is still an issue even with my 16-year-old. So what a great way to bring your doctor into the mix and the child to see that that there's actually evidence behind not living on their computer, right?
And that's, I think, a big problem now, because so many people, if they're doing hybrid model from school, they're spending time on their computer during TV. And I mean, I think you start to see kids complain about headaches and vision problems, and so it is concerning that now that we're having nicer weather, to get these kids outside, to get them playing and get them off the screens. And I think some people forget that screen time isn't just TV; it's their computer time, it's their tablet time, it's the phone time. It kind of all adds up, and you don't realize it.
I would guesstimate 22 hours per day for my children. So that one's going to get out there. So since the pandemic, some parents have been worried about bringing their child in for a non-essential wellness visit. Can you give us any idea what types of safety measures are you taking there at Adena Pediatrics and at Adena in general that are there to protect those that have worries about being exposed?
I think we're doing a lot. And some of the things I think we're doing are probably going to stick around, actually, that we've seen improvements in things, which is, interesting that some of the things will stick around. But, what we're doing, there's always a screener when you come in. We're screening parents and kids for symptoms of COVID, obviously. And then also when they come into our office, we're not having people sitting in the waiting room anymore. We're taking them immediately back to their room where they're separate from, everybody, and they're not having that time where everybody's mixing and coughing and, especially this time of year, and mixing germs and stuff. And obviously we've increased our cleaning, deep cleaning. We're cleaning every room, sanitizing every room after every visit, which we were doing before, but I think we're making more vocal about it to let people know and reassure them that we're taking every precaution. So,
certainly. And I would assume that a facility like a hospital or a healthcare facility would be one of the safer places to go in public. We were talking just before we began this meeting today about masks. We're inside. The good Dr. White and I are both vaccinated. I do anticipate some guidance from the CDC saying and putting out guidelines on what benefits those who are all vaccinated can enjoy by gathering indoors without masks. But again, you see us both wearing masks today. And so when you walk onto Adena's campus and into one of our buildings, everybody in the offices everywhere will be wearing a mask, which is one of the very basic and simple things you can do to prevent transmission. So excellent. That's all good news. Dr. White, give us an idea what immunizations are recommended for children to receive for essential development.
Yeah. So obviously, if you've been a parent, you know that babies are going to get all their vaccines. And then as they get older, they kind of spread out as far as how many they need. And so, I think the CDC and all of us are concerned about if we're missing those well visits, what does that mean for some of these diseases that we've eradicated? And so we don't want to let our guard down from things like measles and mumps and rubella, all of these things,
that in the news, aren't we?
Yeah. And so, yes. And so, sometimes we see these outbreaks in communities where there's a low vaccination rate. And so we don't want that for our own kids. But, other things that people don't think about, such as like their pneumococcal vaccine that can prevent against ear infections, pneumonia, things that we see in kids all of the time. And so we try to get them those vaccines to prevent those worsening cases. And then things that were not as common now with their Hib vaccines, those can cause really bad infections like meningitis. And so rotavirus, diarrheal disease that nobody wants. So all of these things that we don't see anymore, but we don't want to come back because we have been because we've been so adamant about getting our kids vaccinated and the transmission level of these being so low in the community that we don't want to see those things starting back.
Certainly. And I think anybody that has any vaccine hesitancy or skepticism, what I would encourage is to go read about one of the diseases that these things prevent. So when you talk about polio, when you talk about diphtheria, when you talk about tetanus, pick up a book, go to WebMD and read about getting diphtheria. And that this was a common thing at one point in time and very, very bad.
Yeah. And honestly, not that long ago, a lot of the doctors that I trained under in infectious disease and stuff talk about how many LPs they used to do because of, Hib meningitis. And it's like, wow, I've never seen that before, but not that long ago. So I think that's something to remember, that this was just,
point. So we don't usually develop vaccines for minor things. They're usually a big deal and you do not want them. So my kids have gotten pretty much all of them. So next to come will be COVID, right? All right. So sort of big topic over the last year. Dr. White, how can parents help children cope with the changes brought about by this COVID pandemic that we're all living through?
Yeah, I think that's a hard one, and I kind of talked about how I feel like the most that I've seen in this age group of like 9 to 11 has been having a really hard time with it. Because like I said, they can kind of understand what's going on, but not quite enough to really learn how to cope with it. And their coping mechanisms at that age aren't as good. And then, I think a lot of people were so concerned about these younger kids wearing masks at school, but I can say from experience, my kindergartner has not complained once, and we're now, March, and she's doing a good job wearing her mask. And so those kids really adapt better. And so I worry about the older kids more. And so talking to them about, what we can do to help others, because even though we may not get a bad case of COVID or, have mild symptoms, then we can transmit it to somebody who can, and learning to cope with it in ways that we can enjoy things, being with our group of people that we're normally around and enjoying their company, taking advantage of the weather and going outside for a walk, and even though we're not going to the movies a lot anymore, using FaceTime and our technology that we have now, compared to in 1918 when they had the pandemic before, that we can use to see our family members. And, I'm a pretty big proponent of going to school even during the pandemic. I think it's really good for kids' mental health. I think we've seen a lot of kids who have been home, and there are definitely cases where kids, as far as like health concerns from them and their family, that being at home might be the better choice. And so I'm not, saying that every kid, every situation is different. But kids are excited to go back to school. A lot of these kids want to go back to school. And so, I think that's also good for their mental health to be around other kids, even though everyone's wearing masks.
Children are social creatures, the vast majority. I can, even myself, I hope to see that I begin to appreciate some of the smaller things in life that before I did and I took for granted. Long conversation with my 16-year-old son last night about, Dad, the world's changed. Are we ever going back, and what might be different? And they're thinking about this stuff.
Yeah, they're hard.
My 12-year-old, my 16-year-old, they are thinking about this stuff. And when there's time for a pause and we're eating together, they ask about it. So I know it's on their mind. So I think it's important for you to talk with your children. And certainly if you identify signs or symptoms of a problem with your child, social withdrawal, giving up activities or things that they used to like doing in the past, certainly giving away prized possessions, talking about things being just terrible in the end. Certainly any talk about hurting themselves need to be taken very seriously and brought to the attention of your pediatrician or your medical professional to make sure that something bigger isn't developing, because it is preventable. And certainly we're seeing a lot of it right now. It's really quite tragic. Dr. White, how can parents engage their children about their health? What do you think is the best way?
I think,
it's not all lollipops when you come to the doctor, right?
Yes, we don't give those out anymore, unfortunately. But, I think that talking to them about their health is a big thing, and also taking care of yourself as a parent, because you're leading to them by example. And so, we all fight with our kids at the dinner table about eating their vegetables. But, if we're all sitting at the dinner table together and I'm eating my vegetables, being an example is, the best thing. So if we're taking care of ourselves too, it helps that they want to take care of themselves. And it's amazing what kids understand more than you think, kind of like how you're talking. They hear this stuff. They know what's going on. So being honest and having a, mature conversation about, health and safety. And, we don't tell you these things because we just want to talk to you and, point our finger. But we're doing this to keep you safe. And so, having those mature conversations, because they understand a lot more than you think.
Certainly. And it can be some very subtle things that, if addressed now in childhood, prevent a much larger problem for them as a young adult or a fully grown adult. In my practice, it's people with the results of those lifestyle choices earlier in life, having carried too much weight, ate too much sugar as a child, not exercised enough. And now I'm managing these conditions like diabetes and hypertension, heart disease. These types of things, if identified early by your pediatrician, a family physician, can be intervened upon. And it's very important to make those subtle changes, because it's those habits that will last with that child into adulthood.
So we talk a lot about habits in the age 3 to 5, because at those ages, they're still willing to try new things. They're still willing to change their habits, but they're building those habits that last for so long. And so making changes early.
Are they reaching in the cabinet and it's full of sugary cereal versus is there a bowl of fruit sitting up on the counter that when they're hungry, they're taught this is what we snack on. All right. And my wife's wonderful. There just isn't junk at all in the house. I got to drive to this 7-Eleven to find anything worth killing myself. And but the fruit's there, the bananas, and I look back on that and I say, that's pretty darn brilliant. She knows we're going to want to snack, and there's the right stuff to snack on.
So and I have a nutrition background, and so I talk a lot about proportion control and moderation and stuff, because kids want to have an Oreo every now and again. But it's all about teaching them, okay, well, we can have one, but or
at the end of the meal, and or three before the meal.
And so talking about too, I think just eating dinner at the table as a family, like you were saying, you have time to talk. And even my 2-year-old will sit down at the table and she'll say, "How was your day at work, Mom?" So they're listening to the things that you're talking about together. And so engaging them in those conversations and talking to them about, we talk about the 5, the food groups on your plate. And so they want to learn those things and they're interested and they're like little sponges.
Yeah.
So,
how fun.
Yeah.
I love it. All right. Well, we have, as usual, questions are submitted through the viewing group. So let's see. What are some ways parents can help their children make healthier food choices? So we were kind of already going down this path. So what do you guys suggest?
Yeah. So my biggest suggestions, are giving them choices. So, it's hard to say you can only eat this. So I say, okay, well, you want a snack. Here are your 3 choices. You can have a yogurt, a fruit, or, something, but giving them choices because then they feel like they're in control. Okay. So, but making those choices for them that are healthier choices. And so then they start to honestly forget about the choice of some Doritos or whatever, you know? So then they're like, okay, hey mom, I want an applesauce. So once you start making those habits and things, they do start to change their own and their mindset. Mm-hmm. But like I said, it's always nice to have a fun treat. And so, ice cream is okay once or twice a week, so because they're kids and they want to have those things. But
using it as a treat and not a staple.
Yeah.
So it's not pop at the table every night.
Yes.
I remember growing up, my mother said Friday nights are for pop.
Yeah.
And you get one of those, you're too young to remember, one of the glass bottles.
Uh-huh.
And that was it. That was gone. And you were off to ice water or whatever.
Yeah.
This idea of sitting down at dinner, we have pop every night is just, is new.
Yes. And so, but I think just like you said, it's a treat. And so on the weekends, it's okay to have a pop, but during the week, hey, we're going to drink water and stuff. But giving them options to make them feel like they're in control, to have a choice is helpful. And then they can learn to choose better things.
The choices empower them, engage them. Yeah. Sometimes they will actually make the right decisions.
Yeah. And so, I think most kids are, after age 3, they're able to understand as far as like, okay, I have to try something new. And so always making them the same meal that everybody else has. So they have to try at least a couple of bites of their carrots or, whatever's on their plate, but not making separate meals is really helpful. Number one, for mom and dad, because they're not having to make 2 meals, but also, what's put in front of me, everybody's eating. This is what we have for tonight.
Yeah. That's great.
It's
not a la carte.
Yes. And so then they learn that, everybody's eating their vegetable or everybody's eating their fruit, meat, all that kind of stuff.
Hey, I've got one for you. Don't go grocery shopping when you're hungry.
Yeah.
All right. So go with an agenda. And I'll tell my diabetic patients this: don't go to Kroger's when you're hungry.
Yeah.
Or you're going to be grabbing everything your mind loves off the shelf.
Yes, I do that myself.
Here's your agenda. You're getting the apples. You're getting the bananas. You're getting the lean meats. You're getting the multigrain thin sliced bread. If Oreos aren't on your list when you go, you're not allowed to run down that aisle and grab them. So,
and I think one thing that I talk to parents about is, we never want kids to lose weight. We just want them to make better habits and stop the trajectory.
Gotcha.
So, that's never.
So they'll grow into it. So you're not actually saying, hey, a kid needs to pull off 15 pounds.
And so
they can eventually grow into the weight that
we just
they're at.
want them.
That's interesting.
Yeah. So we never want a kid to go on a diet. We just want them to make better choices and make better habits.
Certainly, they burn so much energy, usually if the activity levels are semi-right.
Yeah.
That if you eliminate the really bad stuff, the sugars and the poor food choice options, many kids will probably grow, and
I think a lot of this too has to do with their behavior when if they're drinking a lot of pop and juice and things, and then they come in and say, well, they're off the wall, and it's like, well, let's try to eliminate some of that to see if it helps before we talk about, and more behavior problems. But if they're drinking Mountain Dew for breakfast, it's kind of like, well, it's hard to go to school and sit still.
I'll say.
So, but
I couldn't even do that.
But like I said, just making better habits. We never want kids to lose weight. We just want them to change their habits and kind of stop that trajectory. Because that's what we're looking at on the growth chart, right? Is we're wanting them to follow those growth curves, not going up, kind of going over. So
with the angle, right?
Yeah. So
excellent. All right. I don't see that we've got any other questions submitted right now. So I want to thank you very much, Dr. White, for your insight and your second appearance here at Living Well with Adena. This past week, our production team had the opportunity to visit Jackson Middle School to learn about some innovative ways students there are learning how to stay healthy during the pandemic. So I do believe we'll be cutting to a video now, and that should be fun.
My name is Marlena Evans. I am the PE and health teacher here at the middle school in Jackson, and this is my 5th year teaching phys ed. We incorporate a lot of YouTube now, which I didn't typically do, but YouTube has a lot of videos that you can learn things to do in the classroom. We incorporated juggling this year, which I've never really done, and the kids loved it. And I think that they do it at home. So they're up and being active at home because we're learning things at school that they can do at home.
Honestly, all of the activities, they're really fun to do with our class. And since we have a lot of active kids in our class, then it makes it a little bit more competitive, which is cool.
I play football, basketball, and baseball, and I run sometimes also. I want to go to college and play sports, one of those sports, and you have to stay healthy to go and be a college athlete.
We were just glad to have a season. We were really, really scared. The kids were scared we weren't going to have a season, but you know, we took temperatures, we social distanced, we wore our masks every bus ride. But I tell you what, the kids are troopers and they just wanted to be there. So we were just glad to have a season for sure.
So I'm Spencer Jennis. I'm a senior at Ohio University. I'm a health and PE education major, and I am a student teacher here at Jackson Middle School. I mean, no one expected this to happen, so I just take little games I've learned through my experience and try to find ways, where social distancing can be brought in and where like a mask wouldn't be that big of a difference.
Well, the one that we're doing now is really different, and I've never played it before, but I like it.
I would use the YouTube channels to get the kids up and moving, even if you don't have to go run. You don't have to go walk miles. That's what I would do. I would use the technology that the kids know to get them up and moving. I get emotional about it because I feel like the kids' mental health is better because they're here. You wouldn't believe the kids that would say, hey, put your mask on, right? They get after each other in a nice way saying, we want to be here. We want to be at school. I don't want to be at home. So it's kind of emotional seeing the kids taking a stand, wanting to be here and not wanting to be at home because they know it's better for them. And the teachers too. We try to tell the kids and praise them, hey, you're doing a great job. This is hard. This is more hard on you than it is us, and you're getting through it. You're being resilient and we appreciate you.
Well, that was wonderful. I want to extend a sincere thanks to Mrs. Evans at Jackson Middle School for sharing with us the unique ways that you and your students are staying healthy. And a quick shout out to all of my patients down there in Jackson. I miss seeing you down there, and thanks for still driving up to see me. So I appreciate that. We do think we've got Fred's microphone issues fixed. So I want to kick back to Fred for some final comments about the vaccine. So Fred, let's hope it works this time.
Hi, thanks, Dr. Tucker. Apologize, I didn't catch all that Dr. Tucker covered earlier, so I'll just go through the Adena update on COVID vaccines. As he mentioned, we're still going with our public vaccine program. To date, we've given over 4,000 shots from the PACCAR Medical Education Center. Recently, we completed our Pfizer series for almost 1,300 patients here, and we have since transitioned over to offering that we are receiving the Moderna and also the new Johnson & Johnson product. I'll talk a little bit more about the Johnson & Johnson in specific. But one thing I wanted to mention today is kind of a great thing. Governor DeWine expanded the eligibility to those Ohioans that can receive a COVID vaccine, and that expansion starts today. The biggest group to be included are those that are 60 years and over. So now if you're at least 60 years, by age alone, you're eligible. Some of the other groups, there are some medical conditions that are in there and also some occupations. Some of the major ones, pregnant females, police, fire, corrections officers, child care, preschool teachers, and then there's some other ones. For the full list of the medical conditions and eligibility requirements, you can check it out on our website at adena.org, or the Ohio Department of Health has a whole COVID vaccine section that you can go to get educated. So as I mentioned, and you've probably seen in the news, the newest vaccine by Johnson & Johnson, or Janssen, was approved and sent out to vaccine providers this week. It's a little different from the other two. It's really a great vaccine, just like the Pfizer and Moderna. It was shown to offer full protection against hospitalizations and death. So really great efficacy there. It's for those people 18 and older. And it's also, the great thing is that it's just one shot. So one shot and you're done. And another thing is that in the clinical trials, it wasn't seen to have any anaphylaxis or allergic reactions when folks received that. So really great, as we've said in previous sessions, the best vaccine is the vaccine that you can get scheduled for. So don't let the type of vaccine really be into your thinking. They're all great. They're all needed for us to really get over the hump with COVID. So more to come on that. Final point I wanted to make today is please reach out, whether on our website at adena.org, we have a box that pops up that you can get on our list, or call our 542 SAFE line. So you can identify yourself to us or any vaccine provider that you are willing and wanting the vaccine when it comes available. We are really looking for the supply to increase pretty dramatically over the next few weeks. And specifically here at Adena, pretty exciting. Word will be coming out probably from the governor tomorrow that will be one of a select few of kind of super pod or max vaccination sites for around the state of Ohio. So we're really looking to be able to vaccinate a lot more patients here in the coming weeks. So really need everybody to whether it's log in or make that phone call to 542 SAFE, so we know that you're someone that's ready and willing to take the vaccine. So other than that, that's my update for this week, and back to Dr. Tucker.
All right. Thank you, Fred, very much. I love the new angle they've got you at there. You kind of, that was very weatherman-esque. So that's great. Again, folks, as we continue to move through this vaccination effort, more and more of us receive the vaccine and are safe. It's still very, very important for everybody to understand that wearing our masks when we're outside of our houses in public, trying not to gather together in closed spaces with a large number of people, keeping our hands washed and monitoring for symptoms, and going to get tested very quickly if you do develop those symptoms. All of these things combined with vaccination is our trail forward to get us out of this pandemic. I really sincerely hope that we are on the final long, slow swing out of this, that the country continues with the reduction weekly in numbers. And the only way we'll be able to do this is with enough people getting vaccinated and everybody still being very careful and cautious, and we will get there. So that's great. I want to thank everybody for joining us today. Please be sure to follow us on Facebook and Instagram to get the most up-to-date information on COVID-19 and then other important health topics like pediatric wellness visits today. Vaccination appointments, again, can be made by calling our COVID-19 hotline at 740 area code 542 SAFE, or if you get online at www.adena.org /COVID vaccine, you'll see that it's a bright red button on there. And I've tried it myself. You hit that button and it's just basic information. No social security numbers, nothing like that. We're not going to bug you. We're not stealing identities. We are putting you on a list, and when your spot arrives, you get a call or contacted, and we ask you to report for your vaccine. So be sure to join us for our next Living Well with Adena on March 18th. So that's coming up very quickly. Again, thank you all for taking your time out today, for participating and watching this, and for calling in your questions. And everybody have a wonderful day, and please be safe. Thank you.